right? Last time I was here, I was struggling to read my own notes, so I think I need to accept that age is reality. Um, so I'm happy to be here this morning. I'm happy to see all of you this morning. I'm happy for the opportunity given to me to be the sermonizer of today. We'll start computer, please. We'll start with a preamble, just like a background story. And by the way, Richard, I don't know when two of us agree that those certain things we are saying, but it's fine. Um, there's a theory, maybe it's a fact, but I'm calling it a theory because I've not tested it myself. That if you have a frog and you put that frog in a boiling water, the frog will jump out of the boiling water immediately. However, if you put this same frog in a maybe in a warm water, relatively warm water, that frog will be comfortable with the warm water and it will stay. But the problem then is that if you continue to gradually increase the temperature of this water, the frog will continue to adjust to remain in the water without perceiving any danger at all. So you can actually keep increasing, even for that water to get to the boiling temperature that would have made the frog ordinary to what? Jump out, you know. But the frog does not have the ability to notice if you are making it gradual enough. So what happens is that it will eventually cook to death without doing anything to rock itself. In the same way, human beings can become accustomed to very dangerous situations, especially when it's very subtle, failing to recognize the threats until it has become a bit too late. This can apply to various aspects of our lives, from relationships to our health, from habits to associations, where problems that are slowly coming up may not be recognizable until it becomes too late. It would have been easier and better if we can recognize these problems as they are coming up before they become too late. And our sermon today is focused on that. Our sermon today, the topic is what is breaking? What is breaking? You know, I don't know if it's the right word. I can't make myself, but just allow me to explain what I mean by that topic. What is breaking? There's an English adage that says, if it's not broken, do not fix it. It's a good adage, it's a good idiom. It's simply meaning that when things are working well, you don't need to start tweaking, you don't need to start making changes. But the problem is that sometimes when things break fully, when they are broken, it could also be a bit difficult or too late for you to start what? Fixing them. So the topic is what is breaking, our text is taken from 1 Corinthians 10:12. As a word of introduction, as Christians, we know there is nothing impossible with God. We've heard that all the time. And no matter how far down we are in the wrong direction, we can still come back to God. You know, even in the Bible in Isaiah 1:18, it says, "Come now and let us reason together, say the Lord. Though your sin be as scarlet, they shall be as white as snow. Though they be red like crimson, they will be like wool." So we can actually have someone who has gone fully into any form of iniquity for that person to come back to God. And God's words are always true. And these examples are in the Bible, these examples we even see today. You know, as a matter of fact, in the Muslim denominations, you know, if you want a pastor to be popular, you know, you tell the story of how he was the devil himself and God touched him and all of that and all of that. You know, I remember having an encounter while in school, and somebody was telling me how he was an assassin in his own, he was an occultist on his own, and then he was going to Jabo to go and touch up his jars. You know, I don't know. I hear Jabo jars. I don't know if you have brethren from there. That place is rugged like that, right? So touched up his jars, and God talked to him, and he became a new person and all of that. Stories like that are wrong. But the thing is that stories like that are not actually completely false. Well, I'm telling you, even in a lost church, you know, I have a brother and a good friend. When he would tell me what he did before he became a Christian, even me, I'll be asking myself, don't make this boy angry, right? so that he doesn't go back to where he's coming from. So the summary is that God has the power to change anybody. God can change anybody no matter how far gone they are. But then there's a problem and there's a risk. You know? Based on common sense and based on scriptures. Because the further gone we are, the more we deviated, the more difficult it is for us to what? To come back. You know? So we cannot be saying, oh, there's nothing God cannot do. You don't make decisions, you don't base things on exceptions. You know, exception is that, oh, this is the way it works, but maybe 1%, once in a while, you say, oh, let me base on that. No, that's not how it works. We know that the further away you are, the further gone you are, the more difficult it is to call you back. If this is true, do we then wait until it becomes too late? Little number then that the Bible says, let him that taketh his standard take it, let it not fall. It's not even like you are falling. If you read that passage further, it's telling you the moment to fall, get up. If you fall, get up immediately. What if it's stopping? Don't do what? Fall in the first place. So don't wait and tell us that it doesn't matter how big your sin is and all of that. The tendency is the more you have gone astray, the more difficult it is to us to bring you back. It may actually become too late, brethren. It may actually become too late. You know, there comes a time when it may be too late to act, too late to change, or too late to make amends. Because it has become difficult, or because time is no longer there. It is true in all dimensions of life, our relationships. There are friends or siblings that become sworn enemies, and it's difficult to reconcile them. You know, there are habits that are so difficult to break. You know, and sometimes our health has gone so bad that it becomes a miracle for it to be reversed. You know, when you say that cancer is stage 4, you know that it's already critical. Even our relationship with God, I don't want to start talking about the sin that we are doing the Holy Spirit that we want to forgive him because it's not a teaching. I don't want people to understand on that. But the reality is that there's a way we go, the level of wickedness we have, the Bible says that our minds will become reprobate. We don't even understand what it means. You know, for what forgiveness means, let alone trying to ask for forgiveness. It may actually become so late that when issues are not addressed quickly, then they get out of hand. You know, Isaiah 55, 6 to 7 says, seek me the Lord while he may be found, call upon him while he is near. A time may come when he's no longer near, and it becomes difficult for him to be found. I have seen a lot of examples. I know people who had death staring in their face and they were not able to help themselves, even when they could help themselves. I had a relative who was diabetic, had a lot of health problems. He couldn't stop drinking, he couldn't stop smoking. Those things you know that he will kill him, he couldn't help himself because he was too far gone. Eventually he died and died in a way, a death that could have been what? Prevented. I know someone in Polakov, it was a teen. You know, he had issue with his liver or something. And at the same time, he couldn't stop drinking. What the family members will do is that they will go to all the joints around, warn them and say, don't sell. In fact, they were making fights. They were fight. Why did you sell drink to this? Hey, grown up, what are you going to do about it? He continued to drink and drink, even though when he knew that he was going to die. And he died. Examples like that are bound. So that is when it becomes too late, when people have become so involved in things that they are not able to help themselves anymore. And of course, delay is dangerous. We have a very popular proverb that says that a stitch in time saves 9. You know, in primary school, that proverb confused me. You know, I didn't even understand what he was talking about. But basically saying that if you are not, you know, if you have clothes that is going to tear a little, if you don't stitch it at that point, tell us then we understand. A time will come when you need to stitch it in 10 places. So one, you have saved you 9 other more times. You know, so if you take care, if you solve problems, identify problems when they are small, if you take immediate action when problems are small, it will save you a lot of effort down the road. Delays make problems worse. When we do not need to fix things today, we only allowing problems that will grow bigger, grow stronger, grow more complicated. Because issues we are not able to attend today will continue to spread, begin to multiply, and sometimes we require a miracle to turn things around. Delay is not ever. It's saying it doesn't matter. It definitely likely gets worse. It's almost costly if you not crack the foundation, knowing that eventually will collapse. Many people live their lives putting up difficult situations, uncomfortable conversations that could be had now, changes that will be made now, hoping that they will resolve themselves. It's not likely, it's not going to happen. Problems will not disappear because you've neglected them. They will expand naturally, and before you know it, they have become giants standing in your way. A small act of dishonesty today can actually become a lifestyle of deceit. A small problem between two people resolved now can become bitterness that may be very difficult to ever be resolved ever in life, right? A little compromise in our character today can become our downfall and brings everything down, everything we have struggled to build. Problems will multiply when postponed and all of that. So back to our topic, what is then breaking in our lives? What is breaking in your habits? What is breaking in your way of life? If you fully appreciate how difficult it is to break free from habitual sins or certain ways of life, it will be good that you don't even get into that to start with. If you know how difficult it is for people to break up addictions or change the ways of life, you will ask yourself, that drunk, who gave that person the first bottle of alcohol? That guy that can never quit smoking, who gave that person the first puff of cigarette? I remember many years ago, in my second year in engineering, we had a lecture and the lecturer didn't come. Most of us were outside. And then among us, you had the smokers and all of that. We were talking and people were smoking. And some people were saying, okay, why don't you try it? Those days, there are two popular brands. You have the St. Moritz. They call them the Lighthouse family because there was an advert they used the Lighthouse music to do there. So the Lighthouse family. And some of you are shaking your heads like you know what I'm talking about, right? But I'm not talking from experience. I'm just telling you because I know you'll be the one that will come and start saying that I was smoking in university. So I remember that day, some guys just say let them give them a try. Some guys, right? Don't ask more than that. Some people just realize this was not for me. But the really interesting thing, 20 years later, I saw a friend and a classmate then who was still couldn't do anything without smoking every 5 minutes. And I remember that I was there when he took the very first puff. Right? Some just experimented and know that this is just for the fun of it. No, we can't do this. But some never came back after crossing that line. I once told a funny story of a drunk who one day realized that my life is messed up. He woke up with bottles of drinks, empty drinks all around him. And he recognized that the problem he had in life was about those bottles, So you take an empty bottle, you will smash it against the wall. You will say, you are the reason I did not finish school, right? You will take another one, you smash it against the wall, you say, you are the reason my wife left me. Another one, you are the reason I don't have a job. He kept smashing the bottles. Along the line, he found the one that still had a content. And he was looking at it. And then said, oh, you, stay here, you are not among them, right? And I think technically a drink that has not been opened couldn't have been, it's innocent, right? So he said, yeah, you stay here, you're not among them. If you know how difficult it is to break up habits, you have been better off not to be in that situation in the first place. There are labels that we accepted innocently, There are labels we accepted, there are things we accepted, even as Christians, and we find ourselves that it becomes very difficult to reverse. There are paths we must not tread, Sorry, right? That H is not there, right? Tread. There are paths we should not tread because we will not come back. There are journeys of no return. There are relationships of company that we must not keep because we can become so influenced that we become difficult to help ourselves. There's nobody that is too strong. There's nobody that is too worthy to miss their way. Like I know, no, there's nobody like that, I can tell you. There are friends I've seen years later and try to associate one or two times, and I tell myself, oh, dude, this guy, we need to love this one from a distance. There's nobody that cannot be influenced. What may be corrected today with a discipline may become what will require years of reviewing tomorrow. What is breaking in your health? What is breaking in your health? It is so sad sometimes when our health starts failing. It is so sad and worrisome when we go into some situations and we have to start battling for our lives. And sometimes due to no fault of our heart at all. You know, but the good news is that most times medical people will tell you, doctors will tell you that the things that you're able to discover early enough, you have better chances of addressing. In some cases, you can even reverse them completely. If only you know about them early enough. And that's why when adults get older, you are allowed to continually do medical checkup to know things that may be going wrong. So you can just get them early enough. This is not about prayers, this is the reality because our body definitely, as we age, we continue to go this direction. And it's been a reminder today for us to know that yes, we can be a bit more deliberate. People like me, I don't like anything that has to do with hospital, because I will tell myself there's no time you go to a doctor that they won't have bad news to tell you, especially when you're an adult. Either your BP is high, your blood sugar is this, your cholesterol is this, but I think it is something that we should confront. No matter how you start to find the news, find it early enough, because the earlier you find them, the easier they can be to manage or even to reverse. So if your head is sleeping and you ignore the warning signs, the small problems may become a crisis. Why don't we just, try to see what we can find out and as early as we can find them out. What is breaking your relationship? We can actually lose very important relationships in our life if we don't act fast enough to stop the drifting. Sometimes very slow. Friends don't speak again, brothers don't talk again, and there are little problems in family, siblings start drifting apart, going their different ways. Brethren stop even becoming brethren and all of that, and we ignore these things. It's the same Bible that said if you step up here and you suddenly remember that you have a problem with your brother, that you should wait for everything. Leave your gift and go and reconcile. Because these things, if ignored with the passage of time, becomes difficult to manage. Spouses drift apart, siblings go their different ways, and all of that. Sometimes it's difficult to know what had happened when you have people who are really married and all dotting around each other and all of that, and years down the line, they will become completely different people. I followed one survey on social media when, it could have been a street, but either way, it makes sense to me. They will ask some men to send texts to their wives. Simple text to say, I love you, my darling. And we are trying to find the responses. Somebody will say, have you started drinking again? Another person will say, what is this one about? Another one will say, what have you done again? Because it's no longer normal. Almost like when a wife say, I love you, my husband, like, see, if it's about that salary, that money you saw there is not for me, because these things are no longer normal. And I can tell you, it becomes awkward when things you don't say, things you don't do. After a while, it becomes awkward. I can tell you, something as simple as language. There are people that I know we speak the same language, but when we started friendship or whatever, we are not speaking Igbo, we are speaking English. Years down the line, somebody sit back and say, okay, let's start conversing in Igbo. It becomes awkward because that's not the parole. That's not how it's supposed to be. That's not what we are used to. So things become awkward. And when you have things and you start drifting on things, it becomes difficult to you to come back. So proper communication, addressing small understanding can prevent them from festering to major conflicts. So if there's a tension in marriage and they refuse to talk about them, if there are problems in marriage, they refuse to solve them, naturally spouses will continue to drift. And what could have been solved with a simple conversation today may require years of hearing tomorrow. What about relationships with our kids? We usually probably don't talk enough about that. The biggest influence any kid will have will be the parents. The last class I took was for the men. 3 weeks ago, 1 month ago, and I say that the greatest gift you can give to your kids, so give them a father. It's not about sending them to Canada or anything. And I can tell you the biggest influence any parent can have on their kids, or rather, any kids will have will be from their parents. So what are you doing today? Do you see these kids going astray? Do you see them deviating and you are comfortable, thinking that things will sort themselves out? How will they sort themselves out? When the Bible tells us that we should train a child the way he should go, so that when they depart, they will no longer what? When they grow, they will no longer depart from it. Good parents discipline their children, you know. There's also a problem, right? The Bible tells us in Ephesians 6:4 that we should not also what? Provoke or exasperate our children. And that is actually the problem most men have today, you know. There are men, in fact, I had a friend that we always go to his village like 4 or 5 times a year. And notice that he no longer goes. What happened? The mother has died. But the father is there. He will tell me, Chinedu, let's not pretend. I didn't have that kind of relationship. We can't start having it now. What I don't even have, when I see my father, apart from, Daddy, how are you today? I don't have a conversation. I think men will just recognize that this is a clear present danger. You know, you can't start having a relationship with your kids when they've already gotten used to growing without you, and suddenly you wake up in your slumber, in your retirement, and you start want that closeness. How do you do that? It becomes difficult. What is breaking in your relationship? You know, if you find out that you are drifting, then there's something you have to be done about it. I had a brother in not in Benin in those days. He resigned from his job. He said that he realized that he was losing his kids. He came back to Benin without a job. He said, my family is more important than any other thing. What is breaking in your relationship? What about your spiritual life? What about your relationship with God? Do you still have that power, that conviction, that zeal you have for things of God? You know, that time that you just felt that there's a need for you to accept Christ and the water of baptism, do you still have that? Have the problems of the world or passage of time denied you that passion? I'm very sorry, but I can say this, you know, because I had this topic, and I saw how we are still strolling in, even when we know they are late. Maybe we start with conversation outside, and all of that. I'm asking myself, was it what the early Christians did? Did they do it like that? When we are just so casual, so pedestrian with this thing we are calling Christianity? Is that not a problem like this? You know, are we not drifting? Are we not normalizing things that should have been a state of emergency, where we should be declaring that this is not acceptable? You know, have we not accepted this? I think we'll be asking ourselves this question, whether we are really serious about this Christianity. You know, was it how the people before us ran their race? Some of us, we read certain things in the Bible and condemn. Oh, we say Ananias and Sapphira, how they wanted to be praised and they did not declare. I don't know what the Bible says, but I could have told you that whatever they kept back would have been less than what they declared, right? And of course, they went ahead and sold their land and they still brought the proceeds to the church, and we now said and they lied and all of that. How many of us are even willing to make those kind of sacrifices? And these are the people we criticize. You know, what version? Do we have a different version of Christianity that we inherited, different from what was there? But somehow, we want to now have the best of both worlds. How best can we enjoy these worlds, you know? And somehow, you know, still make it to heaven. Just meet the cut-off mark, you know. Those of us that wrote jam there tell you supplementary lists, even if it's supplementary lists. There's one they call BC's list, when they're giving first batch, second batch, and I don't think there's supplementary list and things like that, right? So like, oh, let's just see how we can just manage it. That's not how it works. Those are really, you know, want to be bubbling Christians, happening Christians, guy men, oh guys, you know, and all of that. Is a problem. Is a clear and present danger. They usually know that when they start doing some kind of songs, I will ask, is this even allowed? You know, how can we be singing that way the pamper from here? Is that Have we finished singing all the songs in the hymn book, songs of church and all of that? But these are the things that is out there attracting us, and before we know it, we keep adjusting, we keep what's the word? We keep basically allowing certain things. Before we know it, we cannot recognize ourselves again. So if you are casual about Christianity, if you are coming into the church late and you don't feel anything, you don't feel any pang of conscience, there is a problem, my brother. There's a problem. Something is breaking. You don't want to get to the point where you become reprobate that you don't see anything wrong with anything. Christ does not allow us to be neutral. It is either we are for him or we are against him. He has no sitting on the fence. We have given the task to change the world. It is not for the world to change us. So, what is your position with God this morning? What of some of our friends sitting in this hall this morning, or even probably listening online, who are yet to even start this journey? What are you waiting for? Do you want your heart to be hardened to the point that it doesn't matter what we say? Hebrew 3:15 says, "Today, if you hear his voice, do not harden your hearts." If you keep ignoring this call, thinking you have more time, if you keep delaying, it becomes a bit more difficult, and we have examples like that. What is breaking in your spiritual life? Christ wants you to decide, and the decision is today. What then are you doing with your time? Time is one resource that cannot be regained. Money lost can be earned back. Possessions taken can be replaced. Time wasted is gone forever. Every day we delay is a day we can never recover. That is why procrastination is very, very costly. Proverbs 24:23-24 says, "Yet early to sleep, early to slumber, a little falling of your hands to sleep, and all of that." You can wake up down the line, years down the line, asking yourself, how did I get here? Because you're thinking, I have enough time, I have enough time, I have enough time, and all of that. Almost in everything, there are people who can no longer marry because they've seen so much, whether it's men or women, they've seen so much that they can't trust anybody again. They've been in 1,000 relationships and beating in ways. They'll tell you, oh, the men are scum group, right? Or the women they are all the same group. Because you have waited for so long, it becomes difficult that you actually change that. So every time that passes, every decision you delay is a ticking time bomb. The time will come when you are no longer able to come back. Ephesians 5:16 says, "We don't need time, for the days are evil." Today is the only day we are guaranteed, so we need to sleep the day with courage. The time to act, the time to change, the time to overcome is always now. Waiting for tomorrow is a gamble. Any problem and any day you push towards is a day you should lose the chance to solve with greater ease. And the more time passes, the more difficult it gets. We will conclude. Is there a point in your life right now, a habit that needs to change, a relationship that needs repair, a responsibility you've been avoiding? You don't want anymore. It does not get easier, it gets more difficult. At the stage, it gets even awkward that it almost cannot be solved anymore. Do not tell yourself it will be done tomorrow. It has to be done today. So I say today, don't wait. Step up in faith. If it's breaking, fix it now. It doesn't need to be broken before you fix it. You don't want to look back some days with regret. A lot of regrets about your life of things you would have actually solved without blaming. Act now that you have a chance. Inaction is more dangerous than imperfect actions. Baby steps, either way, it doesn't need to be so clear. Just start. Problems will not resolve themselves. May good Lord help us in Jesus' name.